a beautiful day down the canal in Enfield here today, 5th February 2025. There's a couple of things that came up there in the last while in dealing with various property transactions. One was to do with the question of bids. I've had clients involved in bidding wars, and the question arises, are they bidding against themselves, or are there genuine bidders bidding against them? From a legal perspective, the estate agent is supposed to keep and provide a record of the bids received if requested. The Property Services Regulatory Authority is a relevant body that issues licenses for property managers and estate agents and so on. And there's legislation then to do with the setting up of that body, but to do with as well how estate agents are supposed to carry on their business. And one of those things is to do with keeping a record of the bids, from who, when, and so on and so forth. Now, that's not to say, and I'm not suggesting it for a minute, that a record, well, I'm not sure what the evidential trail is in terms of the record, and the bottom line is the estate agent is obliged to keep records. That's the legal position, and you, if you feel you're being led astray or duped or bidding against yourself, essentially, if you felt you're bidding, there's got a ghost bidder, in other words somebody that doesn't actually exist, then you can look for the records. That's something that you should keep in mind. And if you felt there was any foul play going on, you could perhaps at some stage mention to the estate agent that you might be looking for the records later on, etc, etc. It might be of assistance, but strictly speaking, there shouldn't be ghost bidders, and strictly speaking, you shouldn't be bidding against yourself. But I'm not that naive to think that we're living in the real world and things can happen, so you need to be careful. As I say, there is legislation there, and there is a regulatory body, the Property Services Regulatory Authority. It's in Navan in County Meath, and you can make complaints to that body if you felt the need to. Another property related topic is the question of the bid X1 auctions. The bid X1 auctions are essentially online auctions where receivers appointed by banks sell property, and they sell property very much in the condition that they find it. Now, if you know what you're doing, and if you get the legal pack checked out, and if you carry out sensible due diligence, it is possible to get a bargain, but also it's possible to take on a pile of trouble that is easy to avoid if you actually go to the trouble of getting the legal pack checked out and doing some basic research. I've looked at 2 bid X1 properties there in the last few days, and the reason for that is there's a bid X1 auction coming up next week, and I review bid X1 legal packs that are available online for clients, for people who contact me. There's a flat fee for that. I go through the legal pack and I review what's being offered, review the legal documents and so on. But the couple that I looked at there over the last few days, one of them was straightforward enough with the proviso. The other one was not straightforward at all, and it had plenty of provisos as well. The first one looks like a nice property. It's in good condition and the title is okay. There's one proviso, however. there is apparently a sitting tenant. Now, I know there's a sitting tenant, or I think there's a sitting tenant, because according to the website, it says there's a sitting tenant and it spells out the rent. However, in the contract and in the replies to requisitions, there's no mention of a sitting tenant, there's no mention of an occupational interest, and the reply to requisition number 8 as to vacant possession being handed over says yes, it will. So that is a serious dichotomy and would need to be resolved. Is vacant possession being handed over, or is there a sitting tenant? Because there's a massive difference between the two, and it can be very difficult to get possession of a property if there's a sitting tenant. They can make life very, very difficult for you. You can take a lot of time trying to get vacant possession, and you're going to incur legal costs as well. So the question of whether there's a sitting tenant or not is absolutely key, and yet in this particular case the BidX1 website says there is, and the legal document says there isn't. That's one property. The other property I looked at has a lot going on. Having said that, because there's a lot going on, it's quite possible that it could prove to be a bargain. Having said that, it could prove to be the biggest pile of crap and pile of trouble you ever came across. Because in that case, there is a sitting tenant, but there's also High Court litigation that's going on for years. And then there's no planning documents. So there are three very, very significant things that would need to be weighed up. A, no planning documents. B, High Court litigation going on against the receiver and against the receiver's entitlement to even be appointed, never mind dispose of the property. And 3, no planning documents whatsoever. Now, those 3 things are going to put a lot of people off. People will run for cover and say, I don't want to take on a pile of trouble like that. I'm not going to bid. But for that reason, if you're a cash buyer, and you need to be a cash buyer for BidX1 properties, and if you have a sort of penchant for risk, this could turn out to be a cheap house. But nobody knows, and it is by definition risky. So the person who takes the risk, takes the big chance, deserves the big payback. But they also run the risk of a lot of trouble. So BidX1 auctions, as I say at the outset, can provide good value properties. You can get a good bargain. I got a couple last year myself, and they've proved to be very good bargains. But I'm able to look at the legal documents beforehand and do my own legal work and see exactly what's involved, so I know what I'm bidding for. But if you think you have an interest in trying to buy a property at a BidX1 auction, certainly get the legal pack checked out, because it's absolutely essential. Down the Canal Bank here in Enfield. It's 5th February 2025, and it's a beautiful day for a walk. Beautiful clear blue sky, much calmer than yesterday. Third point, and I'll wrap it up after that, is when you're buying a property, you need to be very, very careful about what the estate agent says. The estate agent essentially has one job, and that one job is to get a buyer. That's it. And they have a lot of protection in terms of things that they say, because when the contract is issued, the contract will basically say any representations, any warranties that were made to you prior to entering into this contract are null and void, and you can't rely on them, and the contract is as per the terms and conditions contained herein. So you need to be wary of what an estate agent or auctioneer will tell you. They have one job, as I say, and that's to get a punter, get someone on the hook. After that, it's up to the legal people. I get frustrated sometimes when clients on whose behalf I'm acting are buying a property, and I'll be explaining something to them about the septic tank, or about a right of way, or about access to the property, and they'll say, oh, but the estate agent said. That really winds me up altogether, because no matter how many times I say it, not to pay any attention to what the estate agent says, people will come back to me and say, oh, the estate agent said there's no problem with the right of way, or the people are coming and going there for years and there's no problem there, or the septic tank is in the property, all right, sure, it's obvious. None of that counts, quite frankly, when the contracts are issued, because when the contracts are issued, it'll make specific reference to any prior statements or warranties, etc., etc. So for that reason, be very, very wary of what estate agents say to you. So to sum up then, on this beautiful day, the 5th of February 2025, down the Canal Bank in Enfield, before I head back to the office. 1, ghost bidding on a property. If you suspect that there's ghost bidding, you can ask the estate agent for a record of the bids. 2, bid X1 auctions. You can get a bargain, but you really need to be very, very careful. You need to get the legal pack checked out. You probably need to get a structural survey done as well, and you need to be prepared to take on a good bit of risk. And 3, be careful and wary and skeptical about what an estate agent will say to you. Any estate agents looking in here to this, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on your profession or anything of that nature, but people do get carried away and they say things that are more like wishes than actual facts or warranties that a man or woman can rely on. So for that reason, I would caution people to take what the estate agent says with a grain of salt. Hope you find the video useful. If you do, I'd appreciate if you hit the thumbs up button down below. Thank you very much.